Here we go. I like to welcome to the studio, impromptu studio, as I'm traveling, and Jeff is traveling, so we couldn't get together. The famous 2-6, Jeff the Legend Lane. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing good, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So tell me about that hat. What's that mean? What is it?
This is my alma mater hat, Dardanelle.
Yeah, Dardanelle sand lizards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, is that where you grew up?
Dardanelle, Arkansas. Yeah.
Where is? So I got to know where in the world is Dardanelle, Arkansas?
Well, I don't really like to tell too many people where it's at, but
Okay.
it's about 70 miles west of Little Rock.
Okay. You don't want a lot of people coming. Is that what it is? Afraid they're
Yeah,
moving.
you know,
Afraid they're going to move in.
keep it low key, low
Keep
profile.
it. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that everybody wants to move to Dart now. So
Uh,
that's where you grew up.
it's a
So
pretty place. It's small still. I mean, I think there's about 4,700 people, a little over 4,700 people there now, but I remember it being 17 and 1800 back when I was a kid.
okay. So what was it like growing up there?
It was slow paced, right? Um, I grew up on a farm, so we entertained ourselves with things, and it was good. I hated doing it when I was doing it, but I miss it a lot now because you know
Yeah.
things change in your life when you get a little bit older. But me and my dad and my grandpa and two uncles, we farmed about anywhere from 1,800 to 2,000 acres.
What were you farming?
Um, we grow soybeans, corn, milo, wheat, and rice.
You grew rice in Arkansas.
Yep.
Well, I got to know more. Didn't know they growed rice.
Supposedly that's where all the rice comes from down South Arkansas. It's like the rice capital.
Okay. So how do you grow rice?
Well, you plant it right, and then you
Yeah.
make rice levees, and you irrigate the rice, and it basically grows in water, right?
Okay.
So, I remember what I remember about it was it being hot, and you you created these levees, right, to keep water in certain areas of the field, and then you created these levees, which was like a gap in between them, and you rolled these tarps. And when you wanted water to get from one section to the other section, you let the tarps down, which let water run across it until you had water covering the whole field where it needed water. And we used to spray it right with these crop dusters. And I remember several times holding my little flag on about a 10-foot stick, right, so the crop duster could see where he needs to go, and then we'd take 10 or 20 steps, right or left, so give him another shot. Be looking down there, and you see this water mouse could coming at you, pop it with that stick.
How many did
Job, interesting childhood.
you? Yeah. Yeah, no, they put you in jail today, probably.
Yeah,
So,
probably.
so when you was holding that stick up, would they just fly right over you and cover you in that shit, or
Pretty much, yeah, yeah.
okay, that's
You just stood there, right, and he would come in, get his little angle. You could see the plane coming, and he'd come in and disperse his.
yeah. So you had to fight water moccasins
Yeah,
and crop dusters.
yeah,
Yeah,
and and the hot sun because you was out there for nothing.
yeah, right. So was the rice first or last? Like, is that the first thing you guys did, or was that the last thing when you kind of moved on?
That was later on in our careers. Um,
Okay,
we actually took a piece of ground over down in Cardin Bottoms um, from the individual that farmed it before, and we had never done it before. We just, like I said, row croppers at that time, and it was interesting. I mean, rice was where the money was at back then. You know what I mean, as far as
all right,
farming.
okay, all right. So when you growing, how old was you when you kind of left the farm I guess you per se.
Um, so to give you an idea, right, I started out like when I was 9 years old.
Okay.
I drove my first tractor and vehicle when I was 9. And when my uncles, one of them had fell out of the back of a bean truck actually and hurt his back, so he was kind of done with it. Of course, my grandpa and Uncle Lori, they passed on, and at that time it was me, my dad, and uh, Uncle Sonny, and he ended up hurting a knee or something, and so I to answer your question, 23, 24.
Okay. So that's when you went out into the real world, I guess you could say.
I left. Um, well, we pretty much had to sell out everything, so that left us nothing to do, right? So I actually went out and ventured into the real world, as you say, and I had a couple small odd jobs, um, and then in '89 I went to work at International Paper.
Okay, paper mill there, local.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So
lot.
let's back up just a little bit before we get into that. When you're going to school around Dardanelle, like when I went to school, it was he just drove cars and burnt gas, and trying to hunt down a woman, right? And about the same, I'm guessing, where you was at.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So wasn't a whole lot going on, Monday through Thursday. Friday and Saturday nights were the big nights. A lot of times, me and my friends would stay on the Yell County side of the river and just hang out in a little community, what we called Omega community. And every once in a while, we'd venture out across the bridge and hang out in Russellville. And the big thing back in my day was, and yours probably, was cruising, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
we would cruise Main Street and then 4th Street and drive to the end of one of them, turn around and come back.
Yeah.
And we had a little hangout there. It was, the store's actually still there. It's, FC Peters and Sons. Everybody would pull up into there and talk and gather and hang out or whatever, and then we would drive around some more until we were about run out of gas.
Yeah. And then try to find $1 worth of gas.
Yeah, for the most part, we stayed, like I said, on the Yell County side and done a lot of cruising on the back roads.
Yeah, same with us. That's what we did. A lot of cruising. I tried to stay out of trouble. Pretty much for the most part, we did. But
Yeah,
every now and then we'd get in a little
well,
something we shouldn't have been.
some stuff at the parking lot. Every once in a while, somebody from Russellville would show up that you didn't like, and things would happen, and then it would escalate. And
Hmm.
we had a big brawl down underneath the overpass one night. There was probably 10 or 12 of them and 10 or 12 of us, and it got pretty wild.
Who came out on top?
Um, when the cops got there, it was pretty much a dead heat, I believe. I really think it was you know, it was pretty close. I'll just say that.
So the cops got called.
Yeah.
They do anything?
No, they just dispersed us, and we
Yeah.
all went on our way.
They mean more cops like that.
Yeah. But
Just to
back then,
get.
anything, used to you fight, get your butt kicked, and the next day or two, y'all was friends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there wasn't no
Yeah.
revenge or anything like that. The better, what I'm saying.
I do. I do. So the sand lizards and what was Russellville? What were they?
They were the Cyclones.
So it was the sand lizards and the cyclones
Real Cyclones.
brawling under the bridge.
Yeah. We weren't like football rivals, right? Because they were bigger school, so they were in a different, I guess, conference than we were. But we, I guess, they considered us taking their territory when we would come across the bridge. You know how it
Yeah.
is.
Well, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably were. You probably were looking for
Sometimes, most of the time, not.
it. All right. So when you move out of you're out of school, you're working at International Paper. What was that like?
Um, very repetitive. It was a good job. People that I worked for were good people, but if you've ever worked in a factory, it's um, repetitive, kind of the same old thing. You can't see outside, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's hot, dusty, but we had a lot of fun and got a lot of work done there. About the only time you could actually see light was on break. But for the most part, it was just making boxes for 8 hours or 10, sometimes 12.
Right. So during this all during this time, I know some people have told me that the number 26 kind of came into the world of racing. So you know, how'd that get going?
So my dad, when I was a kid, he raced, right. Um, I remember, being down at the shop with him a lot, uh, working on the car because he would tear it up, seemed like every weekend. But it was, I guess you'd say, in the blood. I always wanted to do it, but I never really pursued it at that time. So um, we would be there every Saturday night, and actually, the track was like 4 miles from our house, so it wasn't like we had to pull very far anyway. But
Right.
I always wanted to do it. I dreamed of doing it, just never pursued it. And then me and my cousin got to talking one time about building a car, because even after my dad had quit, we would still go over and watch them race. And then the track shut down for a couple of years. Nobody was running it. Um, so there wasn't really anywhere, to go other than Little Rock, and that's probably a 2 hour drive or whatever from where we was. So we decided we'd, just change direction, I guess. Um, like I said, track was down a couple of years, then it came back in. So me and my cousin, we were 14, 15 at the time, maybe 16, best I remember. And his birthday was before mine. His July the 9th, and I was July the 15th. So July 9th rolled around. His mom and dad had bought him a truck, right? So we we had the car, the top cut off the car, the roof. We had the roll cage set down inside the car. It was a '67 Impala. And this is what we was going to race over there at Centerville. We was going to take turns racing it. And he turned 16. Mom and dad bought him a truck. Well, that strip we was talking about a little earlier, we started burning it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
15, 16-year old. He's driving. I'm not driving. He's got a truck. Then July 15th rolls around and I turn 16. And then my mom and dad bought me a truck. And so now we're both cruising. And pretty much just, I'm going to say our dream fizzled out as far as driving a race car, because we didn't we didn't mess with it after that. The car sat there in front of my grandma's probably 2 years once we decided we weren't going to do anything with it. And then, of course, like everything else, somebody says, "Hey, that don't need to be sitting there. We're going to haul it off to the scrap yard." So that was the first time that we really, thought about going racing. Um, Years later, late '80s, um, me and one of my buddies decided we was going to go Centerville and watch them race. Okay, so we go over there, and you know how it is because you're an ex-racer, and you set up in them stands and you race 100 laps. I could do better than that. This guy don't know how to drive. If I had that car, I'd be whomping everybody's tail. You know what I mean? So, anyway, we stayed and watched the races. Um, it was pretty good racing. So we leave and we go home. And we're talking about it, talking about it. A couple of weeks goes by, right, and nothing's ever done. So me and him's down at my house there, and we're my dad's there, and we're talking to him about it. He's like, boys, racing's expensive, and you got to do this, you got to do that. And my dad was real old school. So I come home from work one day, and there sits this car in the driveway, right? This is 1989, the end of 89. And he had bought it off of one of our friends that I went to school with. And he's like, okay, now you got to find a motor and, and a transmission to put in it. So we get looking around, looking around. I mean, our destiny's right in front of our face. You know what? we
I do.
So my buddy's dad owned a 4-wheel drive shop um, over in Russellville, and he was actually my ex brother-in-law. He had a Bronco over there, like a '67 Bronco that had a 350 Chevy in it. And so me and him took that 350 Chevy out of that Bronco and put it in this race car, which was a '72 Chevelle at the time. And 1990, early part of 1990, we had the car ready, painted it green, white, and orange for Miami Hurricanes. Uh, he was the driver, so he put number 24 on it, right? And I was pretty much the mechanic, I guess you might say. So 1990, we go out. We're race car drivers, right? So he goes out and he gets passed by everybody on the track. But it looks like he's really going fast, right? So anyway, um, a couple of nights goes by, weekends, and he goes over and runs it, and he flips it one night, and we have to work on it and try to get it back together, and then another weekend or two, he gets spun and hits the wall and tears the frame all to crap, and so we pretty much finished the year with junk, right? And I decided at the end of the year that I was going to build my own. So 1991, they had a class over there. It was called the bomber class, right? Uh, Kick the windows out of the car, put a set of roll bars in it, and go race.
Mhm.
Cheap, affordable, not like nowadays.
Right.
So I didn't get mine finished until about July of that year, and I went over there every weekend after that. I ended up finishing third in points that year in July. So we had a lot of people helping us, with setup. Um, my dad was involved a little bit with it, and then one of the greats, I call greats, Melvin Burris, we call him Daddy Rabbit, was our setup guy. We had an individual named Verlin Pruitt, who was our motor man. And anyway, finished out that year third in points. Um, Brent, my buddy, he had built another car um, and did fairly decent that year. Well, new year rolled around, new car, right? You can't have the same old car every year. You got to build a new one. So we built new ones. He built a new one. I built a new one. Painted them orange and white. Um, 24. He was 24. I was 26. Um, the story behind the 26 is when my dad raced, he was number 26 because that's
Okay.
how old he was when he started. So I'm going to run 77, which is my high school number, right? My football number from the Dardanelle Sand Lizards. And I got thinking one day over the shop working on it. I thought, you know what? I should probably run my dad's number. I really want to be 77. So anyway, the next weekend rolls around. We don't have a car. We go to the races. We're still building ours. Get over there. There's 4 number 77s. So
Destiny.
yeah. So I go home. We're working on them, and I call him. I said, "Hey, Dad, I got a question for you." And he's like, "What is it?" And I said, would you be okay with me running, number 26, your number? He's like, what? I said, well, I was going to run 77. I said, but we went over there the other night and there's like 4 of them. And I said, I was just wondering if you'd mind if I run 26. And he's like, well, boy, I'd be right honored, So that's how I got the number 26. So anyway, this is 1992. We get our cars finished. We go over there. Um, it was kind of like one of them deals when we would go racing. Um, we didn't have a lot of money, right? And we was kicking everybody's tail over there. Um, sometimes we'd go over there and fight, and a race would break out. You know what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Centerville Speedway used to be known as the outlaw track of the South because there was a lot of fights. Even when my dad raced over there, you could always see a fight if you wanted to. You just had to walk through the pits. But anyway, I got started, I guess, fully in 1991 with the bomber car, and then in '92, me and my brother-in-law was in the same class. I'd moved up to street stock, and he was in street stock, so we done a lot of racing together, done a lot of racing with each other. We were famous, right, all over the state of Arkansas. We were known as the Twin Chevelles. And boys,
Okay.
Chevelles, they're kicking butt out there. And before we got them to the track that one year, I decided I was going to deck mine out a little bit, right? So I had some white conveyor belt that I had got from my previous workplace. Got it legit, right? They gave it to me. And I go home and I cut these skirts, right, and rivet them to the bottom of the car on the side and then up on the back. Well, my brother-in-law, he comes home, he's like, that looks dumb, stupid thing I ever saw in my life. So, okay, whatever. A couple of days later, he comes out, he goes, you know what, that looks pretty good. Put some on mine. Put them on his. People swore up and down that we were cheating because we had those skirts on our cars. But we never, I never cheated that I know of. Now, like I said, we had a good motor man, and we just didn't ever get caught.
That's more like it.
Yeah. But anyway, that's how I got started in the business, and I've been doing it, like I said, since 1991 officially. And when I'm home, I still do it, every now and again. Technology's changed. I'm out technology, right, because I'm never home to race because of my job now, but it makes a big difference. It's just,
Duh.
you think you could go out there like us bench racers that night in the stands and say, oh, I could do that, I could do this. It's a whole lot different world inside that car.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of bench racers say if he just hold it to the floor and he'd make it.
Yeah, you make it.
You know?
Yeah, that's not the case because you have to earn at some point.
Yeah. So did you win any championships in your career or anything?
So I've won one championship in my career. Um, that year that me and my brother-in-law was racing, he actually finished first, and I finished second behind him, and he beat me by 2 points. Um, and that was the most grueling experience I've ever felt because uh, running for a championship will take all the fun out of it
Yeah.
because you're focused on winning and not having fun, right? So to answer the question, in 2013, I won my very first championship. I had, and the reason that happened was I'd left the business that I was in, and I was home every weekend for that week or that year, and I run every Saturday night except one, and went on vacation because I had such a big lead in the point standing that I didn't have to be there. So 2013, I won my very own championship.
And that's at Centerville.
Centerville Speedway,
Centerville Speedway. Good.
aka the Outlaw Track of the South.
Outlaw Track of the South, where the two Chevelles ran.
Win Chevelle, boy.
Yeah. So I reached out to a couple people talked before you when we talked about you coming on, and one of the guys talked about I don't know a story I ain't never heard. I don't think about you getting lapped by somebody here recently.
Yeah, I technically did not get lapped.
Well, that's not what I heard.
If you go by the rules, right?
Okay.
So I can honestly say I've been lapped twice in my career, right? Jimmy Dotson over at Centerville Speedway lapped me one time. I had a flat, went in the pits, changed it, come back out, and as I was coming out, he was coming around. So I got ahead of him. Well, he passed me, right? So that was once. And then over at Centerville, it's probably been 2 years ago now. I'm over there racing, and like I said, I'm out technology. I come home from work, I air the tires up on my car, I check the oil, I throw it on the trailer, and I go race. That's how I roll. I don't have $1,600 shocks. I don't have a $12,000 engine. So I just go race because I love the thrill of racing and to drive. So I go over to Centerville right there having this 1,500 to win, and I don't do very good in the feature because I had rescaled my car and had a buddy of mine come over and we changed springs on it, right? And I couldn't hit my butt out there in the heat race. It just he likes a tight car, I like a loose car, and he set it up, the way he drives. So intermission, I go back and swap springs on one side. I should have done it on both sides, but I didn't. And I got out there. Of course, I had to start tailback because of my position in the first race. And about 8, 9 laps, right, I hear this car down below me, and I'm like, yeah, you ain't lapping me, pal. So I'm doing all I can. I'm working my tail off to keep him behind me. I'm moving down, getting in his line, and pinching him off in the corners. And to no avail, right, I failed. And we're going down the front stretch, and I seen him pull up beside me. I just reached up and shut my switch off, right? So coasted the car around the top of the track, and it come to a stop. Well, they come out, push me up to the pits, and I get out, and my 12-year-old son says, Dad, you just got lapped. I said, and I didn't get lapped. He goes, how did you not? I said, well, I caused the caution. And by rules, you have to go back a lap. Or I did not get lapped. And he just shook his head there and walked off. So we stay and watch the rest of the races, right? And we're driving home. And my son, who's a character anyway, he goes, hey, Dad. I said, yeah, boy. I'm replaying everything over in my head, what I could have done, should have done, tried, and he's over there and he says, hey, Dad, got a joke for you. I said, what is it? He said, it's a knock-knock joke. I said, well, let's hear it. Trying to pep myself up and get my mind off of how outraged I was. Knock, knock. I said, who's there? He said, Joe. I said, Joe who? He said, Joe Mama. We laugh. Go down the road a couple more miles. He goes, Dad, I got another knock knock joke for you. So, all right, let's hear it. Knock knock. Who's there? Joe. In my mind, I'm thinking Joe Mama, right? He said, knock knock. Who's there? Joe. I said, Joe who? Joe Henry lapped you. So he never let me forget about that either. But I keep pleading my case as far as causing the caution and going back a lap. So
Yeah.
he's not bought into it. But
So what? That's a good story. So, what's your best win? Your most
uh,
memorable win, like the one you're like, I did it.
okay, so I mean I've had a lot. Um, but the one that sticks out in my mind the most, um, we had a Monster Madness race. Um, One of my buddies had leased the track off of the original owner, and he was running the track. And I want to say it was like a 30 lapper, right? And I started mid pack, sixth, seventh, somewhere around in there, and made my way up to second. And the guy I'm running behind, he's from out of town. I think he was from Little Rock or BB or somewhere. And man, I mean, I'm on him. You know, I'm there. I just need him to make a mistake. And we run, I don't know, probably 10 laps. And he never bobbled, right? Never made a mistake. And he's kind of running the same line I'm running. And I'm not one of these kind of guys that if, to beat you, I'm going to spin you out, right? If you're racing me clean, I'm going to race you clean. And I pulled up on him, showed him a fender or two, you know, and he kind of come down across my nose, and that's to me okay. I mean, he's got the advantage, right, because he's ahead of me. So with about 6 laps to go, we have a caution, and I'm in the car saying, okay, you know what, he's running my line. I'm gonna do what I can to get around him, but I'm not going to take him out or me out. I'm just going to, if he wins, he wins. That way he'll win money, I'll win money, and we'll load our cars up and won't have to work on them much this week. So we're going around through there under caution, and I'm thinking, you know, what can I do to get past him? What can I do to get past him? And I just happened to look. We come out of turn 4, and I just happened to look up, and I seen his right rear tire, and his right rear tire was low. And I'm thinking, okay, when we get the green flag, he's going to run in down there in turn 1, set up. That right rear is going to dig in, and it's going to push his nose to the top of the track. So I need to be underneath him when we come out of down the front stretch. So we run a couple more laps under caution, come out, throw the green flag, go down into turn 1. He sets up where he's always been setting up. When he does, that right rear tire digs in the track and pushes that front end up to the top of the track, and I'm underneath him, and I just slide right on by him under the bottom, never touched. He, you know, nothing ever happened, and I went around, took the white flag, and then the next lap was the checker flag, and I won it. You know, I guess what was so exciting about it is uh, I was trying my tail off to get around him, but I couldn't because, like I said, he was running pretty close to the same line. But also, it was the first annual Monster Madness race that they had over there. And I got a big, nice trophy for that, and that's. I mean, I've had a couple that I can think about right now, but that to me was my most memorable one because of, excuse me, the way it happened, right? Because I'm already settled in on finishing second, and then I look up and see that right rear tire going down. Is it my plan in my head happened just the way I thought about it? So
How much did it pay?
I think it was like a 1,200 to win that night, something like that.
Okay, that's
I
pretty
still
good.
sticker stuck on the trophy at home, so I think it was 1,200.
So, what was your? What's we all have those worst moments, you know? Like, I mean, I've got them. I know you've got some.
Yeah, um, I actually have two, but I guess the one that I'll talk about today is the third annual Monster Madness. Right, I'm mid pack again. Right, make my way up to first. I'm in the lead, go into 3 and 4, set up. You know, I can hear a car behind me, just raising Cain. I mean, it sounds like they're on 7, 10 gears or something. I mean, it's just blinking out. And we got 3 laps left, go into 3, come around 2 laps to go. I run into three set up, and the guy that was behind me tried a slide job, right? Well, he didn't make the slide job, and I seen him coming, so I tapped my brake to set up, and let him slide across my nose, and I come down to go back under him, and when I did, there was another guy down on the bottom that tried a slide job too, and he slid jobbed me, and I'm in the middle now, right, of the guy that done the first slide job, and then the guy on the bottom. So the guy on the bottom busted both of my left side tires. And so now I'm running down the track with two flats on my left side and trying to stay in the race, right? Because I can hear other cars behind me now. So anyway, I ended up finishing third, um, the way the car was. But that was one that kind of aggravated me a little bit because I've never raced a guy like he raced me. And up until that night, he had never raced me that way. And it was just kind of frustrating, about it. But because I could
Yeah,
have had in a third.
those guys get in those positions. Maybe they've never won anything like that.
I, I think that's what the case was, and
Yeah,
I'm okay with that if you pass me clean.
yeah,
But he come up there and bounced off of me like a guardrail, and then I went down to get underneath him. The other guy come up and done the same thing. So it was, I guess, like I said, there's a lot of frustrating moments, but that one sticks out in my head uh, the most. I mean, I
yeah,
had one time that I thought me and a buddy of mine was going to lose a friendship over, but we reconciled over it. So,
yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, it was
yeah.
good.
So now you kind of know what like Terry Labonte felt like when Dale Senior kind of.
He just meant to rattle his cage. He didn't mean to spit him out.
I'd never seen Dale Senior, and I wasn't a big Dale Senior fan, but get booed that like he did that night.
I know that's the first time I ever saw it or heard
Yeah, I mean they were dead serious. Like you suck,
it.
you know.
That was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you do you keep all your old cars,
I
or
do.
do you? So how many you got stuck out there?
I've just got two,
Two,
two of the old ones, and then the one I have now.
and the one you have now. What? It's got a name, right?
Oh, that's Jenny.
Jenny. Yeah. Tell us about Jenny.
So, um, the car that I had prior to Jenny was a Camaro. Um, Daddy Rabbit and Jim Barton had built that one for me years ago, and that was called Old Blackie. So I had kind of not really lost interest, but I was gone a lot and didn't have a chance to race. So my cousin called me and asked me if they could, use the car because he wanted to race, and I told him yeah he could use the car. Um, so when I got home from work that summer, I didn't have a car because they was using it. And he told me, he said, you can drive it, if you want to drive it. But a buddy of mine that we raced with, that was one of the 77s that I was talking about earlier, had this Monte Carlo he was wanting to sell. Now I'm on my way to Florida to work, and he calls me and he says, hey, I got this Monte Carlo. You interested? I said, yeah, I'm interested. What do you want for it? And he told me, and me being me, I jewed him down a couple hundred and sent my cousin that I loaned the race car over there to pick it up. So he picks it up, brings it home. It's down there at his shop. I get done with the job I'm on, and I go home and look at the old car. It's not bad. I mean, it's supposedly professionally built from an old boy in Fort Smith. So we get to putting the car together and everything, and I got my youngest daughter say to Grace with me one night, and we're laying in the bed there, and she says, Dad, what are you going to name your new race car? I said, well, I don't know, sis. I said, thought about, Blackie 3. She goes, nah, you don't need to name it Blackie 3. I said, well, okay, well, think about it. You think about it and let me know if you come up with a name. Okay. So in school, she was probably 5 or 6 at this time. And she had a friend, and her name was Jenny. And she liked Jenny a lot, and Jenny liked her. So we're laying there in bed that same night, and she goes, Dad, I got it. I said, you do already? She said, yep. She said, I think you need to call it Jenny. I said, Jenny it is. I said, I like that. That's good. So that's how Jenny got her name.
Okay. So you told me about maybe getting a new car. You gonna keep the name, or you gonna retire Jenny?
Um, Jenny will probably sit in the shop where she's at right now, up on jack stands, until something happens. She dissolves, fades away, rust, or whatever. But
Yeah.
I always keep Jenny. I have another car, a Monte Carlo, that I planned on building a couple of years ago, and just you just don't have a lot of time when you do what we do, right? So um, the name for that one, when and if I ever get it built, because when I bought it off of a old farmer up in Damascus, Arkansas, when I was working gas wells up there, and it's red. So first name that come to my mind there was Ginger Lee.
Okay.
Called Ginger Lee.
Okay. I like it. I hope to see Ginger Lee on the track.
I'm hoping in the next year or so she'll be out there.
Okay. Now you going full bore like
I mean, I hate to say it or do it even because of my, I guess, resume, but they have a class now that they're running called it's pure stock, kind of like the bomber class, right? Excuse me, just stock everything, stock shocks, motor, 450 lift, cam roll, that kind of stuff. And that's probably what I'm going to try to pursue. I'm actually going to um, try to do that, and just so I can go have fun and race. Maybe
because
an interest, so that might be something I do is put him in the car too. So
well, because I mean, if it's anything like where I live, the racing is just I couldn't afford the shocks more or less an engine. I mean,
yeah, well, you and I have talked about shock packages at work.
yeah.
Um, the thing about it is you know I I make decent money, but I can't see spending that kind of money on a race car.
Yeah.
That's, that's my opinion.
That's mine too. That's why I don't have one anymore.
When you're running a $30,000 car and you're racing for $400, don't make much sense.
Yeah. Well, you look at them dirt late model guys last night running their $100,000 engines running for 15 grand to win. That's the win now.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, 10th place to pay you $1,000 probably.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I don't. That's why they only got 10, 11, 12 coming.
yeah,
So that's been the tale of racing since your daddy started though.
yeah.
I mean, you don't race that. I listened to the Dell Jr. podcast, and he was like, "I've never ever went into racing think I was gonna make money."
No, no, you ain't doing it to get rich off of it. I can promise you.
Yeah, that's the old saying: if you want to make a small fortune racing, start with a big one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. If I had all the money that I ever spent on race cars, I wouldn't be working right now. So
I'm with you there, but wouldn't have
enjoy,
no stories.
huh?
Wouldn't have no stories either.
Wouldn't be no stories.
No, yeah. So I mean, I could bench race for the next 2 hours, but let's. How'd you get started? You know, well, there's another story a guy told me about. He wanted me to ask you about. I think I've heard that one, but we'll get back to it. But how'd you get started in the nuclear industry the first time? Because I know you've been in and out.
So I actually got started in '97. My ex brother-in-law got me started in it. At VC Summer was my first nuclear plant outage.
Hmm.
Um, and then I went to Catawba and McGuire, and then nothing. Right. So that was kind of spooky. Um, then in 1999, I got a call from a friend of mine wanting to know if I'd be interested in going to work, with Framatome. And back then, that was a big deal, right? So went to Crystal River, and I've been with them ever since up until um, 2012, and I got burnt out and left the business for about 4 years, and then ended up coming back in 2017.
What was you doing in those 4 years?
I worked for a gas and oil company out of Conway, Arkansas,
Okay.
riding a truck, eating corn dogs.
Getting fat.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So did what run you away from that?
Um, Gas was starting to fizzle out, and I was very fortunate. I made it through 3 layoffs, and possibly could have stayed up until this day, but I didn't feel very comfortable with doing that. Um, Fortunately for me, the company that I had worked for called every year and asked if I was ready to come back, and I told them no. And when they called that fourth year, I said, "Yeah, I guess I'm ready to come back." And so we negotiated. I said, "I'll do whatever. I'll go anywhere you want me to, except for Salem, New Jersey." And I've been at Salem, New Jersey since 2017.
I know it. I think I've only seen you out there one time. When
Yeah,
you got COVID in Florida.
yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's right. So,
Yeah.
so where was you working when this certain story, something about a Porta-John? Where was you working at when that went down?
Well, so me and a couple of uh, guys, buddies, right from back home, were in between outages. We were doing outages at this time, but we was in between outages, and we went to work at the Delaware Rock Quarry, uh, doing some iron worker work, whatever, hanging shaker beams, right? And it's 120 degrees sometimes in Arkansas, and I'm a pretty regular feller every morning, between 7 and 7:30. So I've been there probably a week, right? All of us have, and on this one certain day, I ended up having to go to the bathroom, and I went over to the Porta-John. Well, it hadn't been cleaned out in forever, so it was full, and I mean, I'm needing to go pretty bad. So I do what everybody else does: stand up and hover over the hole and go. And when I did, um, you get that what everybody dreads, that awful backsplash, right? And it splashed up in my tail, and I was grossed out by it. So I get done, get myself cleaned up somewhat, and go out and I tell the foreman, I said, "I'm going home." He's like, "Where you going? Are you sick?" And I said, "Almost." He's like, "Well, what are you going home for?" I said, "I'm going home and clean myself up." I said, "I can either come back or come back tomorrow, but I'm going home and taking a shower." So he's arguing with me there a little bit. "Well, we got this to do, we got that to do." I said, "Listen," I said, "here's the deal. I'm going home and clean myself up. I'll come back because I don't live very far from here. I'll be back. We'll finish out today. Tomorrow, when I have to go to the bathroom, I'm taking that company truck and I'm going up on that hill to where the trailer is, and I'm using that bathroom because I'm not pooping in this Porta-John no more. Y'all get it cleaned up or cleaned out or something, because I'm not doing it. Well, you can't just do that, blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, well, yes, I can. Anyway, I go home, clean myself up, get me a shower, go back to work, finish out that day. Next day, my time comes, I get in the company truck, drive it up there on the hill where the trailer's at, and I use that bathroom. Come back down, get to work. He's griping, you can't do that, you can't. Well, there's nobody in the trailer. It's just a trailer up there empty. So next day comes around, I get in the company truck, drive up there on the hill, do my thing, come back down, go to work, and don't miss another lick the rest of the day. Well, I come in that third day and start getting in that old company truck, driving up the hill. And my foreman says, "Why don't you just go on home and use your own bathroom? So I don't need you no more." So I ended up leaving that day, and I ain't pooped in one since. A long time ago. That's probably in 98 or 98 is when that happened. It's horrible.
It's horrible. Yeah. I
Yeah,
know all about them Porta Johns in the middle of summer.
yeah, they're no
Yeah,
good.
they're not good. No, they're not
No, they ain't.
good. No, they're not. So when you worked for Framatome, or Riva, whatever you want to call it, they've had Framatome, went to Riva, back to Framatome. I've
Hey,
worked for them for a long time, but uh, they've been good to me. I don't want to say anything bad about them because they've really been good to me. I just what's your I guess I don't want to say you've had some long careers, so what's your like best character you've met? I know who mine was, and you're probably it in this industry, but like,
uh, I guess the one that sticks out in my mind the most would probably be Dallin Henson.
yeah, he's a yeah,
He was a good one, and I worked with and Newbie too. Uh, I worked with both of those before I ever started working for Framatome at Surrey and North Anna a lot. But he was a different individual. He was fun. He shot straight from the hip, and you knew where he stood.
yeah.
But
I remember Dylan. He had diabetes there real bad, and of course he didn't take care of himself. But I remember he would be like, "Well, gonna let my sugar crash." You know how he talked, so he could eat a candy bar.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Remember that?
Yeah, and I was like, "That's not how that works, darling. That's not what you need to do." And
Yeah,
he didn't care.
yeah. He didn't care at all. He was a mess, boy.
He was a mess, and he'd always have him mints in his pocket, and he'd be in the can, dressed out, and you'd see him over in the corner
Yeah, yeah.
popping in them mints, and he
I got
wouldn't. It's big against the rules, but they wouldn't say nothing.
I got asked one time, was I eating mints in containment? And I said, no, why? And they said, well, we found a couple of wrappers. I didn't say nothing, but I knew where they come from. But
Well,
I guess my second interesting person would probably be you. The first time I met you, um,
oh yeah,
actually thought we had maybe worked together at Davis Bessie, right, a long time ago.
yeah.
But I, for some reason or another, didn't remember that. And then when I came back in 2017 to Salem, um, Buddy said, "You can be on night shift with Tim Lambert." I said, "Okay." He said, "You and him talk racing." Talk racing? What do you mean? He said, "Well, he thinks he's a daggum race car driver too." And I was like, "What?" So I was pretty excited about that. When I did find out that you actually did race, it was pretty cool because we talked a lot of racing.
We
I learned a lot of stuff from you and tried some of it, and some of it worked and some of it didn't. But
well, most of it didn't work because you were just lazy.
yeah,
Yeah, I
I,
mean,
I did buy a grinder,
but never used it.
still in the box.
Yeah.
I see it. I see it on videos now that that's what everybody does is they grind their tires off, but it's still in the box.
Yeah, you got to knock that shine off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna try it someday.
someday maybe on Ginger Lee.
Ginger Lee. Yeah.
Ginger Lee, maybe try it on her. No, that's funny. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, that's fun. But I've had so good much time talking to you, like in the break room and stuff. It's you're one of my favorite people. Trust me. It's
Well, I appreciate that.
yeah, it's fun. It's fun. So
It makes it a lot better when you're away from home. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, and there's some characters. I mean, we've worked with some characters. I mean,
Yeah.
and seeing these young kids come in and change. They first came in, they don't know nothing. They're scared to death, and then you just see them kind of grow up a little bit, and
Yeah.
it made me think different about the younger kids. We used to think they were lazy and dumb and all this, but they're not. They just
They just
they
do
just
things.
need yeah, and they need a little more help. They need a little more.
Yeah. A
But
little more.
once you get them, like I've seen, I don't want to mention names, but a lot of them kids they just change, right? And
Yeah.
some of them are supervisors now and moved on to other things. So they
Yeah.
yeah. And here we are still in the ditches working. So
Yeah.
who's the smart ones?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
I
okay.
work for a bunch now that when I left, I never would have thought would have been in that position, and now when I came back, I ended up having to work for
Right.
them. That's okay because they want to be there. I don't.
I don't. No, it's the headache is not worth it anymore.
No, it ain't.
Mhm. Okay, buddy. All right, buddy. Well, we've talked a little over 50, about 55 minutes now. So I really appreciate you coming on, Jeff. It was
Well, I appreciate you calling and asking. I, I, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I hope everybody did or does.
yeah. No, you got some good stories and we've had some good time and if you ever want
I
to
got
come back,
stories.
huh?
I got a whole lot more stories. We might have to do it some other time.
Yeah, well, you just come anytime. Right? You're welcome. You just give me a call. I'd really like to get um, like to wait when we're together, where I can get you in front of my studio, or
Yeah,
get you in really good quality camera and stuff, and get you, and we'll just bench race. I mean,
yeah.
that's all. That's all there is to it. Okay.
I
All
bet
right,
both.
buddy. Well, I appreciate you coming, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, bud. We'll see you. Take care out there.